Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Speakers for Schools Industry Spotlight Talk. We're delighted that you have been able to tune in and join us. Today, you're going to be hearing from one of our industry insiders, who is someone who works in an industry and is living out the experiences and has lots of advice and things to give you on today's very interesting topic. Um, which is all about finance and money and being savvy with it. So, really excited for that. We have around about 45 minutes to an hour today's session, and it's going to start with a presentation from our speaker before we'll later move on to a student Q&A. Now, questions for our speaker can be submitted via the Q&A box that you'll find just underneath the screen on your just underneath the stream on your screens. You might have to scroll down a little bit to be able to see this box. And it's open now and it will remain open through the rest of the session. So we encourage you to submit as many questions as you like in response to anything that's said today, as we do love to hear from you. And if you are thinking, oh, I wonder about this or I wonder about that, now's your time to get your questions answered. So really have a think about it and please do submit whatever you'd like to ask. Now, if you find yourself having any sort of issue today, please do let us know via that Q&A box, and one of our moderators will be on hand to support you where we can. Now, moving on to the main event today, we're very excited to welcome today's speaker, James. I'm going to hand straight over to him for his presentation. So everybody, please welcome James.
Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. And hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. I remember when I was your age, I wish I'd have had someone that I could literally just ask a question to from the internet, and he would tell me about his experiences, about how to become more financially savvy. My name is James Wright. I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Chichester. I'm a qualified ACCA accountant, which you can see from the sort of badge up at the top there. And I run two businesses whilst I lecture at university. When I was in school, my first job, which we'll come on to later on, was washing cars, delivering papers. I used to sell furniture, all the things, just to try and get myself as financially savvy as possible on there. I'm very good at saving money. I'm now very good at investing money. And today's session is going to be really about cramming in as much as I possibly can in the limited time we have from all the sort of financial lessons that I've learned over the years, with a little fun game for you guys to get involved in, as to say, especially with investing. There are companies out there in the world that you and I use on a daily basis, and you think to yourself, well, if I'm buying their products, why don't I actually maybe buy some of their stock or some of their shares as well? As we said, I've got the Q&A open up as well, so feel free to ask at any point during the presentation. And I would recommend, if you want to take some notes for today, because it will be very helpful for you, it's a case of pen and paper, or if you're using your phone, you can keep in touch in that way as well. So if you use TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, one of my businesses involves producing content and social media, so you can keep in touch with me, and especially on LinkedIn as well. That would be another resource and professional app, no matter how old you are listening to this, to help you out on there. And you can also let me know if you've ever come across Chichester as well. So if you are passing and you're coming close to where the university is, you are more than welcome to come onto the campus, meet any of the academics and myself, and come for a face-to-face chat as well. But without any further ado, let's get on to our nice, lovely presentation about how to become a financially savvy student on there. And when we're talking about being financially savvy and getting good with your money, first thing for your notes is you've got two things that you can do. Number one, you can reduce your expenses to as low as they can possibly go. Or secondly, you can earn as much income as you possibly can. Now, with expenses, they can only go down to a certain level because you're spending things on like your phone bill and food, which you just have to have. Whereas income-wise, the sky is the limit on there. You've got your Elon Musk, your Jeff Bezoses out there, some of the richest people in the world. The sky is literally the limit. And this is where some of you may be actually working at the moment. And if you're not, I would put it down as a call to action going away from today, because I used to be really scared to tell people sort of what goes on in my world. Whereas now I'm actually really transparent. And if it can help someone going away from today to actually make a change in their life, and maybe we'll catch up one day at a face-to-face event somewhere around the world, or if we're at a conference, things like that just literally make my day. Last week I went to the Accounting Excellence Awards in London. I haven't got that photo on here, but there were two apprentices who watch my content on TikTok, and they are now training to be qualified accountants because they watch my videos. And they're going, two apprentices up in Manchester watch my videos, and now they're going to become qualified accountants after watching it. It's mind blowing the impact that you can have on there. So for starting left to right, as hopefully you can tell from some of the photos, that is where I look slightly younger in them on there. And again, if you've got your pen and paper down, some of the jobs that I had when I was growing up, just to earn some money on the weekends in midweek, was I used to have to get up at 6 a.m. before school. I used to have to do a paper, well, not have to do, I got to do the paper round of the local area, which brought in, I think it was about £30 a week, something like that. Now, that was a long time ago. And I know you're thinking, £30 a week, James, that doesn't sound a lot. But if you accumulate it up, £30 a week times by 52, well, you're looking at about £1,500 there. Plus, there were Christmas tips and other things on the lines there from our customers, and a few other odd jobs. So I think total income there was probably about £2,000, and I was 13, 14, something like that, which is serious money when you get used to that sort of spending habits. And when we're in a world now of credit cards and just tapping away on things, understanding when money leaves you and money coming in is a massive skill to have. And that was the first step where I went, well, where else can I earn some money? You can see on the photo on the left hand side, that is me as a qualified referee. I used to referee football matches on a Saturday and Sunday. Again, on top of that, I used to sell furniture. I did a bit of work experience selling fish, all these sort of things that I did before I went and studied at university. Now, I did an accounting and finance degree. There may be some students here who are thinking about doing maybe business, financial management, accounting and finance. Again, feel free to use the Q&A if you would like any further clarification, if it could be the right pathway for you to go down. But from doing that degree in accounting and finance, it really gave me the insight as to, if I want to set up my own business in the future, what is one of the reasons why businesses fail? And I also, and still have, the goals of going up into senior management within organizations. And one of the key skills that CEOs of large companies like Tesco, Sainsbury's, HSBC, any multinational blue chip company, I think it's 51%, top of my head, I think was the most recent figure, are qualified accountants or people from the financial sector, because you just have to know your numbers to run businesses. And one of the reasons why businesses fail, not just in the UK, but around the world, is poor cash flow management, not pricing your services, not knowing how much they cost on there. So when I was at university, I was learning about how a business is run, doing my accounting exams where I gained some exemptions on there. And then I also got the opportunity, you can see from the two photos at the bottom, to actually take those skills and to work and travel. So that is me stood on a mountain in the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina, where I worked at a summer camp for 2.5 months. Again, my accommodation was paid for, my transport to and from the campsite was paid for, my food was paid for the whole summer. The only things I had to pay for were my flights and insurance, but I still got paid for actually doing the role. So you might have heard of Camp America. I went through using the company Americamp, if you want to take it down in your notes. Again, a unbelievable experience when I went out there at 21, but you can go out as young as 18. Again, life-changing experience, because then when I came back, this is where, to become a qualified accountant, you have to do your professional examinations. And lots of people think, oh, if you become a qualified accountant, that must mean you're really good with money. But it doesn't, I'm afraid, on there. I know lots of accountants who are very bad with money. But you can see with that sort of nice suit and tie look, that was me on my first day of what is known as an accounting study contract. And this is where I worked for a company called Stanbridge Associates. Sadly, they're no longer formed anymore. They paid for my professional examinations that I had to do. I had my 3 years of experience. So in essence, I was working full time. They paid for my expensive exams, which I think total cost was about £10,000 to £15,000 for them, which I didn't have to pay for. That was part of our study contract. Um, I am a Leicester City fan, so when I was doing my studying, Leicester nearly got relegated, and then the following year we actually won the Premier League. So, yes, sorry for anyone out there who maybe supports Derby or Nottingham, but let me know in the Q&A if you appreciate the Leicester photo in my presentation. And then once I got qualified, I got a few job offers to go down to London to work in tax. I had a few offers to go back to Leicester, again, just working in accounting practices. And then from there, because of my qualification and the opportunities it presented from my financial experience working with clients who were, serious high-end clients earning serious money in their professions, setting up their own companies and running their own businesses, I went, what do I fancy doing now? And that's where the option of actually teaching accountancy came into effect. And on top of that, also setting up my sort of businesses on the side. In other words, working for a company who was then also happy that I had other ventures on the side that were of interest to me. And I used to work at the University of Lincoln, teaching students there for 7 years. I'm now working at the University of Chichester, and I speak to all my students directly, one to one, and they want to take their knowledge and studies at university and apply it to set up their own businesses. And one of them, for me, is actually using social media and content to spread the messages as to what I wish I would have known about finance when I was in your shoes. And I don't know if you're allowed to go on your phones at school these days, but you can write it down if you've got pen and paper. If you put James Wright ACCA, or just put James ACCA on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, you can access all of my free content on there, which is designed as to helping people set up their own businesses, helping people to become qualified accountants, and helping people to get better with their money as well. Little things about how to start investing. And if I was to encapsulate a few things that if you go away from today, this is the mega important bit of the whole presentation. If you go away today and YouTube and just do a bit of reading or put it in on Google, these things I'm going to tell you now, your life will change forever on there. So, number one is what is known as an index fund. That's an index fund. So, what that means is you have the TikTok gurus out there who tell you, oh, invest in this company, oh, invest in this Dogecoin thing, and that you don't really know what it is, and it's going to go to the moon and you're going to earn an absolute fortune off it. Well, granted, once in a blue moon, one of these things might actually come off, but the majority of them, I'm afraid, you should be completely ignoring. Whereas an index fund, you invest, like I do, and this is not financial advice, it's for you to go away and to do some research on, is to invest money that you have, that you'll start to when you earn money in the future, and you go, right, maybe I want to buy 7,000 companies or a small piece of 7,000 companies. And that is what an index fund allows you to do. So instead of just buying one company, like Tesco, an index fund allows you to buy 5, 6, 7,000, depending on which fund you would go for. So index funds is number one. Term number two is compound interest. So for your notes on there, compound interest. And what this means is it is where you will receive a dividend from investing, and it's where that money is reinvested over the years. And in a nutshell, it is money making money on more money. And the longer you leave your finances in a fund, in some shares, the longer you leave it to grow, which you have a massive advantage over me, where if you invest £100 from the age of 18 over 35 years, you will become a millionaire on there. And that's little things like knowing about compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world, knowing about index funds on there. There are other things such as how to get started. And the next tip to have a look at, number three, I used to do this all the time, is have yourself a budget on there. Saying to yourself, do I actually need what I'm purchasing here? Or is this just a sort of emotional want for it? So all these little things that I help people out with. And one thing I wish I'd have done sooner is read more books. Honestly, if I had £1 for every time I'd have gone, oh, I wish I'd have read that earlier. That has saved me thousands of pounds. That has made me thousands of pounds. So what I'm going to do for you is on my phone on here, this is where I use Audible. Now, this is where, again, you can have a look at these completely for free on YouTube. I'm just going to give you 3 books. If you put them in on YouTube or on Google, and if you go away and read the whole thing, it will make a massive difference to you. So one of the best books I read when I was in my mid-20s that I wish I'd have read when I was about 15 or 16 was a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad on there. So we want to note it down. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And this is all about understanding what assets are in your life, how you can actually take your entrepreneurial skills and use money to your advantage on there. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad would be a very good one. And that is by a guy called Robert Kiyosaki. But if you want to put Robert K, it'll come up anyway on there. The next book, honestly, absolute must for anyone interested in business, economics, finance, becoming financially free, growing as a person, is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. This will help you to take those ceilings off that you have in your mind to say, oh, I've never think I could do that, or no one in my family's ever done that before. It teaches you about abundance and bigger thinking on there. So Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And for anyone who wants to know more about, money, finance, in other words, what to do with your money to make it grow, it's an absolute game changer book, this. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clayson. Again, if you put in George S. Or George Clayson, The Richest Man in Babylon, those would be my 3 books for anyone remotely interested in getting slightly better at finance, accounting, running a business, going maybe into the corporate world, or even if you just want to get better with money. If you read those books, it will just change your life on there. And if I'd have read those 10 years ago, or when I was your age listening to this, I would, oh my word, I don't even want to contemplate where I would be from there, because it's definitely changed and shifted my mind for it. And that's what helped me to set up the YouTube channel. I also run an Amazon business as well. This is where if you buy products on Amazon, you might have actually bought some from me. This is where we sell everything from like hairbrushes, hair dye, just an array of different products on there. But again, it's just trying things, finding out what the opportunities are out there. And even whilst we've been talking, the last 10 minutes or so, I think I've sold a hairbrush in that time. So again, I never thought these things were possible, but then by reading those books, reading around my subject, understanding about money more, it's the opportunities that have led me to travel around the world. I've been out to Asia, America on there. My YouTube channel's watched in about 140 countries. Planning on going back out to India again, going around Europe. It's crazy on there. And hey, if I can help your journey, just to get you on that way, or to inspire you to go away from today, just to try things a bit differently, or to read that book, or to have a look at those key things that I said on there, it is only going to pay dividends. And I can't put it across to you any more honestly, just to give you that sort of buzz as to the abundance out there. Now, I said it's not just going to be me just telling you about things that are majorly important like we've gone through. It's meant to give you the sort of ideas and thinking about going, oh my word, I didn't realize these things are out there, or the value of these companies that James is going on about, that I invest in 7,000 companies through the likes of index funds on there. And I didn't realize how much they are worth as well in terms of money. So if you want to get better at money, you've got to have some exposure to it. And this is where, if Bruce, you're watching right now, Bruce Forsyth would be saying to yourself, James, that is a stellar game there. If you don't know who Bruce Forsyth is, absolute legend of TV. And this is a game where, if you have a pen and paper with you, we can come to it in the Q&A at the end, but this is where, for you to have a bit of engagement, we haven't got a live chat, so it's up to you to write it down. It's which company is the biggest in terms of market value. So what I mean by market value is, for all of the shares in the world of Coca-Cola and all the shares of PepsiCo, multiplied by their current share price, what is their total market value? And it's just to get you thinking that these are companies that you see on a day-to-day basis, week by week, if you go into Tesco or Aldi or your local shop, whatever it is, and you'll see PepsiCo and you'll see Coca-Cola. But feel free to write down for me what value you think the company is worth overall. What value is that company on there? And it's just to give you a bit of exposure as to the numbers that we are talking for these multinational brands that you see every single day of your life, most likely on there. So write it down, pop it down. What's your guess for PepsiCo? What's your guess for Coca-Cola? And I'll give you one to get us started now. So hopefully you've got an idea for two of them down. So let me take it on to the next one. I've got to be careful now to push the slide correctly. So PepsiCo, to kick us off for our game for today, is worth $276 billion, that's billion dollars on there. From all the shares multiplied by the value of how much the shares are. So now you've got to say to yourself, is Coca-Cola worth more or less than PepsiCo? And just remember, it's not just Pepsi, the cans that you see. Pepsi also own other companies out there. I think they own Tropicana on there and a few other beverage drinks. Coca-Cola, on the other hand, they have lots of different ranges. So write it down, pop it in your notes. For the market value, what do you think Coca-Cola is worth on that? Is it going to be more or less than $276 billion? Well, let's find out. $299 billion. So have a look to see how much you thought they were worth actually in the start, before I gave you any figures. Then you've got two comparisons there of competitors in the same market, and you can find out these values if you just pop it in on Google. You go Coca-Cola market value or Coca-Cola market capitalization, to tell you the full value of that company at the present date. So now what we could do is we could say, well, we know Coca-Cola is worth $299 billion. Let's have a look at another company in another industry. And that is where I've just pulled out Tesla. I've used Elon Musk as an example of one of the richest people in the world. Well, this is where we'll have a look at one of his companies now. And when you're looking at these companies, because of the sheer scale and size, you have to be really careful when you actually measure the value of the company. So Tesla, at the time of me saying this in mid-October 2024, when I was going through and updating these figures, actually lost a significant amount of value overnight on there. I don't want to give it away for for the students trying it live, but we're talking in the billions lost overnight, just like that, from one of the new models that were released, which didn't have the same impact as the previous ones. So you've got to say to yourself, put down in your notes, is Coca-Cola worth more or less than Tesla? And our survey says you are spot on. I would imagine most students who are joining us live have gone, oh, it would probably be a bit higher, James, but how much higher? Well, you're looking at give or take around about the 700 billion, that's billion still on their mark, for Tesla. Or in other words, twice the size of Coca-Cola. Now we're sticking to America. And for any students who are joining us in the UK, Walmart is the largest supermarket provider in America. Think of it as even bigger Asda, maybe something like that. So you've got to say to yourself, I've got a car manufacturing company, or well, actually, Elon might not appreciate me saying it's a car manufacturing company, as they're more of a futuristic technology based company in terms of Tesla that are looking at innovative solutions, should I say, not just pigeonholing themselves to cars. But is Tesla worth more or less than Walmart now? So you've got supermarket industry versus the car industry on there. Put it down in your notes. What do you think Walmart is worth in terms of a comparison to Tesla? And what we're looking at is just a bit less on there. I've just realized the Tesla number hasn't pulled forward, but give or take, Walmart is worth slightly just less than Tesla on there. So again, it's still a $500 billion business, but it's just to give you an insight as to say, no matter what industry these companies operate in, they have the potential to grow, to actually become larger. And it's also an exercise so that you get more comfortable with the larger figures. So why don't we take now Tesla as an example carrying on here, and I'll throw into the mix another example in terms of Facebook, or in other words, Facebook as part of the Meta group on there. So that's involving WhatsApp as well and a few other subsidiaries. So for your notes, is Facebook, including the Meta group, worth more or less than Tesla on there from a purely market value position in terms of their overall value? And again, this is you putting into putting into practice your current financial knowledge of these companies that again you will have known you'll have known about. You can go home tonight because my mum is on Facebook. You can just say, "Oh, mum, you're playing on Facebook all day. Do you know how much it's worth on there? How much you're contributing to the value on there?" So put down a figure in your notes as to what you think the market value is, or do you think it's more or less than Tesla? And as you can see from the figure updated on the screen, it is nearly 3 times the value of Tesla on there. We've now reached trillions of dollars rather than billions on there, just to show you the sheer scale of these organizations, which, of course, Mark Zuckerberg, for anyone who's watched the film, is going to be very, very pleased about. We've now got another competitor. We're nearing the end. We've only got a couple left, so stay with me on this. This is quite a challenging one. Is Amazon bigger or smaller from a financial perspective, market value, than Facebook in the Meta group on there? Have a think to yourself, is it bigger? Is it worth more? What's the value on there? And then you've got to be saying it's a Zuckerberg versus Bezos comparison on here. So that's where the competition lies. Do you think it's worth more or less? And as you can see from our lovely answer on here, it's just worth a tiny bit more. So we've got it nearly at 2 trillion on there. Facebook with Meta, only 1.5 trillion. We're nearing the 2 trillion mark on there for Amazon. So have a think to yourself, if there was a company that you've heard of that you think might be bigger from a market value perspective than Amazon, put it down in your notes now as to what company can you think of that might be bigger than Amazon. That's from a purely market value. Think of a company that you see and you probably use every day on there that it could be. And remember that 1.9 trillion was one of the companies that maybe you thought about. Was it Microsoft on there? And again, you've got Bill Gates on there. Is Jeff Bezos's Amazon bigger or smaller than Microsoft? So feel free to put down your answer on there as to what you think it was. Is it gonna go over the 2 trillion mark? Do you think it's going to be a bit less? Is it more on the lines of because it's a technology kind of company? Is it going to be the same as Facebook and Meta? Let's have a look. See what you've got down compared to my answer on here. Well, that might be a bit of a shock that we've now jumped. We didn't even get into the 2 trillion mark. We've gone just over $3 trillion on there. And you're thinking to yourself, oh my word, I was not expecting that, James. We do have one more company. Again, feel free to write it down. What do you think could potentially be bigger than Microsoft? I'll give you a clue. It's in the same sector as well as Microsoft, or the technology sector. But feel free to write down as well the market values. You can have a look back. But the last one we've got on here this is a big one now, is Apple. So you've got Microsoft on there. Is it worth more or less than Apple? Have a little think. Have a little think. Is it going to be worth more than $3 trillion from a market value perspective? Feel free to write down your answer, or write down if it's gone higher or lower. This is just so you get some perspective that if you're looking at your Apple phone or anything like that, how much is that company actually worth? Well, you're looking at nearly $3.5 trillion and bigger than Microsoft. And something just to bear in mind, that from using one of those key terms that I talked about at the start in an index fund, you can invest in all of the companies that I've looked at and shared with you today in this presentation. So within the index funds that I invest in, which are global funds that anyone can use on there, you have to be over 18 to start investing, I believe it is on there, but you can set up a junior stocks and shares ISA. I invest in all of them. I have some exposure to all of the companies involved on there, and it's just to get you interested and saying to yourself, hang on a second, James, who I came to the talk today with, he he never invested when he was my age. He started to learn about these sort of things, reading the right books, speaking with and attending the right areas. So listening to those books. I used to listen to online webinars on YouTube as well, and then speaking to my parents about money. That was another good thing. Getting good spending habits. All these different factors then allow you, from that accumulated knowledge, to put it into practice and to become a more financially savvy student on there. So to really summarize before we come on to your Q&A, so if anything has provoked you to say, I really want to ask James that question, now is your time on there. That if I was in your position, and you'll hear about it all the time, and I know everyone's from different backgrounds and different situations, and we're going through a cost of living crisis now, is that if you can do your research, do the hard yards, and really go into trying to look at increasing your income, your knowledge, your exposure as much as possible, reducing your expenses to a reasonable amount to get yourself going. I remember when I was, oh gosh, 18, 19, one of my first targets was to hit £500. And I know that might sound a million miles away to maybe some students who are joining us today, but it was for me when I was earning £20 a week. And I thought, this is going to take me forever on here. And when I hit the day of hitting it, I went, oh my word, how good does this feel that I've earned it? I set the target, I set the goal, and then I just started at looking at other different means from there. So again, take it as whatever you would like to from today. I hope the insights have helped on there. If you would like to keep in contact with myself, you are more than welcome to. If you do, and the final thing I'd recommend that you get set up is a LinkedIn account. So it's LinkedIn. This is a professional network account that when you maybe go to college or university or you start having a job, you can connect with the professionals who you meet, and I can tell you now they will have a LinkedIn account. You can connect with me. If you put in James Wright FCCA or James Wright ACCA, you'll have access to all of my free content, and I would love to hear in the future how you've got on from our presentation today. That if you put some of those things into practice and you read those books and you really give it a go, trust me on this, you will be laughing in years to come. You will be part of the 1%, and you will be, how can I put it in words to you? It's like when I was on a plane to go to Asia, because students watched my YouTube channel, which was done in my room on here, on my laptop with no fancy equipment. I've got a headset that was free from work as well. I use free editing software. It was just purely my time and effort and energy and early starts and late finishes and learning things on YouTube and just trying different things that just made the difference. And I look at it now and go, it is such a fun, it's such a fun game to play that you just never know what is going to happen. And I get a message yesterday on Instagram asking, James, would you like to come to London on Friday to do some recording on some accounting practices and helping people to become accountants? I just think, why have they messaged me of all people? Oh, it's because I will turn up. I will provide value. I won't let them down on there. All these little things. I hope you've enjoyed today's session, everyone. I want to leave some time for a Q&A, so leave as anything you want to in the side, and feel free to let me know what you thought of the presentation as well. But I will give it back now to the lovely Speakers for Schools team, and we can have a little chit chat through. How was that, Charlie? Okay?
Yeah, really good, really good. I love the little game there that we could play along with you. A great little bit of fun. We do have some questions that have been pre-submitted, so we'll start with those. So our first question then comes from UTC Sheffield Olympic Legacy Park. Bit of a mouthful. And it's, is it better to join a pension scheme now, or should I put my money into an ISA? Can you explain a little bit about ISAs?
Oh my word, very good question on there. So if you're currently working, then your employer will actually make pension contributions for you. So my first question to anyone who's tuning in today who is working, check on your payslip that one, can you opt into the pension scheme there? And two, will they match any contributions? So that's the first thing to check. In terms of ISAs, absolutely make the most of an ISA. For anyone who isn't aware, it's a saving, or it's known as a tax wrapper, that any money you put into an ISA, individual savings account on there, it is completely tax free. You won't pay any tax on that, which again is a great perk on there. And any money that you invest, if you go through a stocks and shares ISA like I do, any money I put into stocks and shares that will hopefully gain over the long term, I will not pay any capital gains. I won't pay any tax on that because it's sheltered in the wrapper on there, or the tax wrapper. So again, it comes down to nobody's coming to tell you to sit down and to read about these things, and it's the reading about them that whenever my friends come and talk to me, and I'm 32 now, they'd ask me, "Oh, what about this lifetime ISA, James? What about stocks and shares ISAs? What about cash ISAs?" They're not willing to sit down and do a bit of research on the government website and just read them through. And honestly, once you read them through and you understand them yourself, rather than going on assumptions, your stress levels about money just drop altogether because you feel in such control over yourself versus the majority of people who go around tapping, tap, 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 tap with their credit cards and with their debit cards. And you're going, oh my gosh, we need a plan because you need money in the future for early retirement, financial freedom on there, and set yourself a target of when you want to be financially free. Mine was originally, don't laugh, Charlie, 35 on there. So I need to do a tiny bit more work on there. But I went, well, if I miss 35 and I hit 40, that wouldn't be too bad, would it? So again, most you got to realize, okay, Charlie, what age are you going to retire, or the students going to retire based on the current forecast from the government?
Right now, I know I'm about 67, I think, is my retirement age, but I think for the students now, it's going to probably be a lot older than that.
Yeah. So you're looking at, I would say 70, 72, maybe 73, maybe even higher. So you've got to say to yourself, do you want to be working when you're 72, 73? Nobody's coming. Nobody's coming to tell you to read the financial books that James recommended today. Nobody's coming to tell you to read about the lifetime ISA that if you put £4,000 in, the government will give you £1,000 for completely free. Nobody's telling you to budget because most people don't have enough money to get deposits on a house so they can move out of their parents. Welcome to the real world, everyone.
Our next question then, we've had two that are about saving and some kind of tips and things like that. So I'll sort of combine them. Got a question from Nunsthorpe Academy that have asked, how do I save money with a cash flow? And on a similar vein, we've got the Sacred Heart High School that have asked, how do you save money wisely? And they've tacked on, and I like this, while also ensuring you have a bit of money to spend on yourself.
No, absolutely spot on there, because you don't want to go through life and regret that you go, I just feel like I'm saving away and I'm not actually doing anything for myself. It it's working out how much you want to allocate. I think of it in my head as like little buckets or little pots on there. Now, I'm assuming most students will not be paying rent, so I'm taking rent out of this equation on here. But I will also give you my one as well. So when I was living at home when I was 16 and earning money, paper round, selling stuff, mine used to be, used to try and keep it simple, 50% savings, 50% spending on there. And by doing that, I know it only came to about, like, my paper round was £30 a week. So I was saving £15. But over the course of the year, that accumulated up to hitting my first. And this is the next thing you should definitely have down on your notes for today, is setting yourself a target of saying, right, can I hit £100 in saving? Now, there might be some students here who have never had £100 in saving. Setting that target, your mind just gets into it, just ticks into gear, and you're going, right, where are the opportunities for me to make an extra £5, £10, something on there? I know some, I'm going to say students on there, youngsters, even though I classify myself and Charlie as still youngsters, they make money on TikTok Shop as well. They sell products, they use affiliate marketing. I'm not a social influencer, but people call me that. I am. But all these sort of mechanisms, like yesterday on YouTube, I didn't do anything and I earned £12 or something like that. And you go, it's just learning and trying things, and don't be afraid to, and allocating percentages as to setting yourself targets, and doing it that way as well. And you got to have a saving mindset as well, because so many students just want to say, oh, mum and dad will sort it for me. Oh, the government will sort it for me in the future. But honestly, you have to take accountability and responsibility yourself. And once you become more financially savvy and you know what you're spending and you know where it's going, and if you get to the stage where, which you've got to have it as your goal, where you can go into the shop and you don't actually have to look at the prices, or you can go to a restaurant and you don't have to think about whatever's in there. Imagine that in the future, and you go, oh, That's pretty cool, isn't it? Gosh, look at all the hard work. It's paying off for me. So find out what gets you going, what gets you ticking, set it as the goal, write it down, put it on your wall, put it on your phone, and go from there. That's what I was saying.
And as a follow-up to that sort of question then, how can students stop themselves from wanting to buy? Because I know we have a huge problem and, over my years, I've fallen victim to it as well. When you get the money, the urge to spend the money can be so strong. So how can we sort of fight that wanting to buy all the latest things or whatever to help us hit those goals and hit those targets?
No, really good question on there, Charlie. So if a student does have their own bank account on there, the one thing I have always done and still do now is I automate payments from one account to another. So with my investments, with my savings, the bank takes the money and moves it for me automatically, and I have no choice whatsoever. So the automation forces you to do it on there. And that can be just a set amount. It could just be £50, £20, whatever it may be, but it forces you into it to say, well, the concept is for anyone who wants to write it down and to YouTube it, again, it will change your life, up to you if you want to go do it, is pay yourself first. That's what it's called. Pay yourself first. This is you keeping the money in your, for yourself, in your sort of world that goes on, and then you allocate fund money or other expenses on there, but it's the automation for it. The other thing which I know I used to do, I know it's not as um, easy now, is to take money out as cash and then say, right, I have £50 for the week, or I have £20 for the week, and I can only use by paying cash. And when you physically see the money going, it changes the psychology of the way that you think. So go old school. It doesn't matter what your friends think on there, because you'll be the one laughing in years to come, where you'll be retired, sat on a sunbed at 50, and they'll still be working till they're 75.
That is very true. It's easy when you don't actually have the money in your hands just to keep tapping. A question that's come in then is, what is your goal for the future?
What is my goal for the future? That's a very good question. My goal is actually to help as many students around the world as possible to become financially free to support their careers. And by whatever means that would be, if I can teach them face to face, if I can do it online, I try and leverage social media as much as possible. And it's amazing that, like, when you go to an event and you see someone and they say, because I watched your content, I've now passed my exam. Like, it's the ACCA results day today, 14th of October. I helped this a couple of students out, one-to-one sessions, and they've got children, they've got mortgage payments, they've got things going on in their lives, and they pass their exam and they get a £2,000 pay rise, or it means that they can now move into a house and all these sort of things. I'm there going, like, can we just bottle what you've just said there, and I can just have that in my head. But these things, is like, I log on to my YouTube account every day, and I get a message from someone around the world who, we are in such a privileged position here in the UK, that there are some students out there who've literally got nothing, and they watch my content on their phone for free as well. And they drop me a message and say, James, I watch your videos and I've passed my exam, and it's got me an internship at PwC or EY, or I've set up my own business now. And I always refer to it, Charlie, as the fizz. It's like, what gives you the fizz that gets you up in the morning, where my alarm is set, but I get up before it. And granted, you have your good days, you have your bad days on there, but finding what that is, and mine is just really helping as many people as possible, and doing it in the most, sort of fun, and making it just ease, really. Hence why I love doing these sessions with you guys.
Good. We like that you enjoy it. We have time for about one more question before we have to look and close then. And we're going to go for this one that's going to come in, which is, in your opinion, what is the best app to use to purchase shares?
Oh, now I have to caveat this with, this is not financial advice. This is for you to go away and to do your research. There are lots of platforms out there. So if I was to list off a few, if you're from the UK, you've got your AJ Bells, you've got your Hargreaves Lansdowns, you've got your Vanguards, but the thing, or you've got your commercial banks. So if you're Santander Bank, Lloyd's Bank user, whatever it may be. They all have these available platforms on there. But the key thing for you to, again, go away and research, put it on Google, is you want to reduce the amount of fees that you are paying. So that is where the lower the fees that you pay, the higher the returns that you have. So again, if you were to go onto YouTube tonight and put in, what does higher fees mean to my returns in the stock market? And it will play you a video that if you have fees of 1% versus 0.5%, over the course of your life, you will be about it's about £300,000 worse off, depending on how much you're investing. So it's just one decision of 0.5% that costs you £300,000. So fees is a massive thing for you, and just doing your research, doing your due diligence on there. I've recommended though a few books. The other one I'd say is it's a Google talk as well. It's free on YouTube. It's called The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. One of the first books I've ever read on investing on there. Super easy. The Super Path to Wealth, or the Simple Path to Wealth, should I say, by J.L. Collins. And it's literally just it gets your mind changed to be like, what can I do to be 1% better today? And like even it's a rainy day in Chichester, and I go, oh, I'm not quite feeling it today or whatever. Little things like on my phone, I have that on there, and it says the major key to your better future is you. And that I don't have any notifications on my phone on there or anything like that. It's on airplane mode, and I read that every day, and I go, oh my gosh, we've got more videos to do. We've got more people to help. We've got all these sort of different things. So anything that I can help you out with, it's just I always try and share all the lessons that I wish I'd have been told when I was about 15, 16, because I never had that sort of mentor in my life or someone I could trust on there. So yes, in the world of TikTok and whatever we have now, if I can help you out, check out the free content, just put it on online, James Wright ACCA, and I will love to hear how you're getting on in 10, 15 years, where if you follow some of the bits we've talked about today, you'll be laughing. Honestly, you'll go, oh my God, you probably had it, Charlie. You have those moments in your life. You go, what happened at that point in my life where things changed? And you go, that point in my life, I said, I'm going to get financially savvy. I'm going to think about setting up that business. I'm going to go put in the time and the effort. There's a guy online called Simon Squibb. Hopefully, I get to meet him one day. He goes around asking people about their dream and stuff like that. I think it's absolutely wicked. Like he's earned all this money, and now he can just go around and help people, and just doesn't care. But he's helping out thousands and thousands of people. So that is like, find out what gives you the fizz, and if you don't know what it is, get off your PlayStation and Xbox and actually do a bit of research on there and think about it, because those are the major things that are going to help you out.
I think that was a great question to end on, James, and a really good sort of positive mindset to find that motivation, find out what works for you, and kind of do your research. I feel like that's definitely a point. As we look to end today's session, is there anything else you'd like to say to our viewers as we close down?
Well, I've touched on it before, but I'll touch on it again. If you're taking notes today, please just write down, nobody is coming. Mel Robbins talks about it in her book. She's a psychologist, and she says, nobody's coming to tell you to read the books. Nobody's coming to tell you to put in that extra hour when you finish school or finish college for that book that you're supposed to read. And nobody's coming, even on the days when you do not feel like it. You've still just got to have that grit and determination to go for it. So reach out, put yourself out there, give it a try, fail again, fail again. I've failed so many times. I know people don't like failing in the modern world, but it is a massive part of success on there. I don't even think I'm successful in any sense at the moment, because I've still got a gazillion things I still want to do. So keep in touch. You can take down my details, and I look forward to hearing from you in about 10 years' time when you go, I went to that talk you did, James, and this is how I've turned out. Oh my word. And then I'll eat my hat, because it will be wicked to hear. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, James. It's been really wonderful having you on. A great interactive session. Love the quiz. Really love your energy. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Have a great day, everyone, and I will see you soon.
All right, we're moving to the end of the session now. So, thank you, all of you, for sending in your questions. Sorry we didn't get around to answering them all, but hopefully, you feel like you've learned something today and you're feeling motivated to kind of go away and do some research and figure things out and really put a plan in place for yourself. I definitely feel motivated, so I hope you do too. There is a QR code on the screen that links to a feedback form. So if you have a few minutes, please do complete this. We will share all your feedback with James. It will also be sent to you in a follow up email along with the recording shortly. So do keep an eye out. If you don't have a way to scan the QR code now, don't worry, that feedback link is coming. But that's it from us. Hopefully, you enjoyed the session, and we look forward to seeing you next time.